Gives me great honor to introduce our next orator, who's a business analyst from North London. And this particular talk is not aimed at this crowd. It's aimed at non-Indians. We have Sunil who, when I think about the journey that we've been on together, is very unique, is very witty, and I think once you see his speech, you'll agree, is very determined. Speech is titled, Letting Go of India. We have Sunil Bala, Letting Go of India.
Thank you. You know, I'm really grateful that you guys are here today because a lot of my friends, they tell me, you only ever socialize with brown people. Now, clearly that's not true. And I'd like to make sure we take a selfie before we leave here today. It's not all so bad. So at work, I have my friends like there's Kev, there's Matt, and 2 Robs. And sometimes after work, we go out for a drink to socialize and we get into these deep and meaningful conversations like how we're so similar and yet so different because of our backgrounds. Now, what's not obvious to my friends is this. One thing I'm sure many of us here have in common, though, is cricket. And who can tell me what's special about 2019? Cricket. Yes, we, England and Wales, will be hosting the ICC Cricket World Cup. The point that's not obvious is this, however. I, having been born and brought up in the English county of Leicestershire, having aspired to be an officer in the British Army, to uphold the values of courage, loyalty, and selfless commitment, I will be supporting India. Why? This is apparently not obvious. So let's explore this through a series of 3 assumptions. 1, India is not critical to my identity. 2, the history of India is not relevant to my present in the UK. And 3, the relevance of India will diminish with each generation. So 1, India is not critical to my identity. My identity is made up of multiple layers. Each layer is mutually exclusive. For example, if my passion for cricket should diminish, it would have no bearing on my passion for football. I am a vegetarian. I also prefer to eat Indian food. If one should change, it would have no bearing on the other. Now, so far I seem to be inferring that maybe I could remove India from my identity and I'd still be who I am. However, step into my simulator. Computer, give me an onion. It's not a fat man, it's not anything else, it's an onion. Okay? Stay focused, please. This onion has a crisp, golden skin and layer after layer of crunchiness. Naturally, I choose to discard the outer skin. Now, the next layer is slightly discolored and I also remove it. Now, what I have is still, you could still describe very much as that same big, juicy onion. But now I continue and I remove a layer and another and another, and I keep going. Eventually, I'm left with a core, which still smells like an onion, but in no way is it that same big, juicy onion. And are you able to tell me which layer it was, after which it stopped being that big, juicy onion? You cannot. Every layer was as critical as each other. But it's okay if I no longer have an affinity to India. It's okay if I don't care for its history. I'd still be who I am. It's okay if I don't have a Hindu wedding ceremony. I'm still Hindu. It's okay if I name my children after characters from Game of Thrones. But at some point, what's left? A brown guy that smells a bit like curry? India is as critical to my identity as any other aspect, and I will not be whimsically discarding of it. Assumption number 2. The history of India is no longer relevant to my present in the UK. Consider this for a moment. Why do we study history at school? Now raise your hands if you support England in football. Keep those hands raised if you feel that special rivalry when England played Germany. Why? Now, there's a piece of history that goes back well over 100 years. Certainly nothing to do with our present today. And yet we choose to hold on to our history in these subtle ways. Because what if things had worked out differently? Who would we have been? What food would we have been eating? What language could we have been speaking? And throughout that vast history of India, what if things had gone differently in the Ramayana? What if the other side had won in the Mahabharata and the various invasions of India? And of course, British colonialists. Yes, let's not forget that. But it's okay. Let's do forget about that. Let's get together and play games. We'll call it the Commonwealth Games. We'd certainly have it in common that all of our wealth is right here in one place. And now we get to win it back, one medal at a time. Sacrifices have been made throughout the history of India, which have shaped who I am today. My beliefs, my values, the food I eat, the language I speak. If for a moment I were to think that I did this, not only would that be foolish, but I would consider it also rather disrespectful to those ancestors that made those sacrifices. The history of India will remain relevant. Assumption number 3. The relevance of India will diminish with each generation. Now, I work in the field of finance and technology. When you go out to buy financial services, you will commonly be advised not to use past performance as an indicator for future events. Yet in the industry itself, it's standard practice to use historic simulation as a way of projecting future risk. A lot of terrible things have happened in the history of mankind. I feel very much British. The unity that you and I share is also very much genuine. However, given this vast history, it would be foolish for us to think that that can never change. Maybe not in my lifetime, and maybe not for my son, but maybe for his son. Now, despite torrent after torrent, India remains India. India remains the home that will always understand and accept who I am. And therefore, the relevance of India cannot diminish for future generations. On the 30th of June, I will go to Birmingham to watch England and India play in the Cricket World Cup. My face will have the Indian tricolour, and I will be leading the chants. Bharat Mata Ki! Jai! And then I'll look forward to soothe my throat with a cup of traditional English tea. I do usually fall ill the day after. India will remain relevant for future generations. India will have a place for my son. India will have a place for me. And I will remain proudly British. Thank you.